This is what Tim Kawakami tweeted. It's no surprise, but I've been told a team to watch in any possible wide receiver trade talk around the draft is Houston. Houston has the 3rd pick and the 13th pick in the first round. 13 seems like the one in conversations. That, of course, would include any potential Deebo interest. Deebo for number 13?
You know, the Niners, it wasn't too far long ago that they once traded not a guy on Deebo's level, but a star player for pick 13. And at the time, I would imagine the majority of fans applauded the move because it felt kind of like an elite Belichickian move. It felt like a Belichick meets Billy Bean. It was just a no-brainer. It's like, yeah, I'd trade 13 for DeForest Buckner, especially when you got to pay him a lot of money. And let's face it, it kind of backfired because the guy that they used that pick, now it was weird because they didn't have any other, like a lot of other picks, and they traded back a spot and they used one of the extra picks from Tampa, right, to get Brandon Ayuk. So it's not, there are more variables to it than just strictly Kinlaw, who now, as we predicted, was a lock to get some Instagram videos coming out over this period of time. I didn't quite expect for him to double down on the Niners saving the guy's life, basically. Be the only guy that believed in you. It's like, Javon, you were going to get drafted in the top 20, whether it was the 49ers or the fucking Texans. Someone was picking you. Like, you were a big-time prospect. But I do think under no circumstances you can do this without 98% of people being absolutely furious. Like, to me, this is, you can't trade. I'm not saying he's Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, but, like, given the year and given his emotional state to every fan, like, you cannot trade this guy for pick 13. You just can't. Even though, like, I understand I have no problem with you having the conversation, and there's value in it, right? Because you immediately, let's just say you get a really good player, you get a guy under contract at a much cheaper number, but you're starting a young, to me, if you had, Matt Ryan or, in his prime, Phillip Rivers or something, maybe you could do something like this. But as we've talked about, like, you're pretty dependent on a young quarterback that you don't even need to throw this guy the ball. You just hand it to him.
He's as uniquely valuable to the 49ers as any receiver is in the league. And so you would put incredible pressure on whoever you draft at 13, which I won't say would have to be a receiver, but 13 seems like where a receiver is going to go this year in the draft, right? You got Garrett Wilson and Drake London and Jamison Williams and Chris Olave. And I don't know about you. I watched some Treylon Burks tape the other day, the Arkansas guy. He looks like an animal. I watched some George Pickens tape the other day. He looks like an animal. Don't forget remember John Mechie? John Mechie. Now he's a little later, but the point is, I know. But the point is there are just some really good receivers in this draft. And around 13 is where really good receivers go, right? So I'm not saying you would have to draft a receiver at 13 because you don't have to do anything, but you would need to you'd need to nail the pick, and you would just put an incredible amount of pressure, not just on that player, but you'd put a lot of pressure on Trey. I keep going back to this. Any money you spend around a young quarterback is money you are spending on the young quarterback. So
like Miami this offseason with their guy, right?
When you pay Trent Williams and then you draft Trey Lance, part of the money you're paying Trent Williams is an investment in Trey Lance. When you pay George Kittle, you are investing in Trey Lance. When you pay Deebo Samuel, you are investing in Trey Lance, who you've already invested a lot in. You are helping him succeed, which is
the Bills. The Bills did it when they traded for Diggs, right?
It's what this whole thing hinges on. The entire thing. The Deebo's been the thing we talk about. We talk about Jimmy and Jimmy and Jimmy and Jimmy and Jimmy. The thing that matters more than anything else is that Trey Lance is your franchise quarterback for the next 12, 15 years. That is what matters the most. And you are investing in him when you spend money on Deebo Samuel. And when you trade Deebo Samuel, you are risking Trey Lance's future.
Big time. I think it can't be on the table. Now, unless he told you, like, we will never play for you again, which even then I wouldn't believe him. But I don't think you could make the trade. Even though you could have a conversation and you could get to the point where, what if we got Chris Olave? Could he give us at a cheaper, and this guy's really good, right? Now, is he a lock to be there? I think I think one of the top 3 wide receivers would be there if Jameson Williams hadn't torn his ACL, because there's so many pass rushers and there's some offensive linemen that they would take up space in that top 10, that one of the top 3 wide receivers. But I think the Niners couldn't take Jameson Williams with a torn ACL. They just couldn't. You couldn't risk that, right? Even though in a year he might be Tyreek Hill or some incredible player, because he was incredible in college.
Could the Chiefs do that?
1,000,000%.
Yeah,
they will do that. It honestly wouldn't shock me if they traded up a little bit to get him. I heard DJ like, this guy was born to play in the Chiefs. It's like, yeah, he probably was. So, I just don't think you can do it. You can't risk it. Even though, like, again, when they made the trade for Buckner, it made a lot of sense. You know what happened since? Buckner goes to Pro Bowls every year, and the Niners, that pick that they use on that player has given them nothing. Now, they've been lucky that the best assistant coach on the staff on defense is an elite defensive line coach. Think how much better they would have been the last 2 years if they would have had him playing well, right? He's been gone, disappeared. And what if, I say this all the time, just because like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, some of these guys have hit the ground running, there have been some Raegers. There have been like Devontae Smith. It was a work in progress. Like, it's not every guy just dominates. And the difference is some of these guys get to go to shittier teams. It's not whatever. You're not getting judged. Like Higgins truly getting judged up until this year, and he was ready to roll, right? And I'm not saying he wasn't good as a rookie or whatever, but whoever that guy would be, I'd also say this. The difference, too, is whoever you're replacing him with, probably even more than like the Tyreek Hill thing. It's like, whatever. You had to build your team around Patrick Mahomes' money. The Devontae thing, he forced his way out. So it's like, if the Packers do take someone at one of those picks, they would have rather had Devontae. So it's no one. You would have actively chose to get rid of Deebo to do this. That guy would have the ghost of Deebo Samuel around him. It's like, you got to be as good as Deebo.
Yeah, the difference too with the Chiefs,
because that was Kinlaw's thing right away. It's like, hey, you don't need to be Buckner right away, but you got to be good, and he just couldn't even play really.
But that's the difference, right? Is the guy that replaces DeForest, you just need 85%, right? You just need 85% of DeForest Buckner at a fraction of the cost plus Ayuk.
And Kinlaw probably would have been that if he could have just stayed on the field, right?
And maybe he still can be. Maybe he still can be. The Chiefs, the guy that replaces Tyreek Hill, where would you say he has to rank on the Chiefs offense?
Well, wouldn't you say, though, maybe he still can be, but like they had a chance to go to the Super Bowl? What if last year he just gave him 7 sacks extra if he had been fully, that cost him a little bit incrementally?
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say about Tyreek?
Well, just the guy who replaces Tyreek at best has to be the third best player on the Chiefs offense, which is expecting a lot, but you got Kelsey and you got Patrick Mahomes. Deebo was, in some ways you could argue Tyreek was the best player, but Deebo is the best player on the 49ers offense right now. He was the best player on their offense. He's on their team, just regardless of what his Instagram says. He's on their team.
Yeah.
So, it's like AJ Brown, by the way, takes Tennessee off his Instagram. Like you're on the team. We don't get to pretend like you're you're on the team. But anyway, good tactic. So okay,
this isn't Facebook. Like you don't get to actively break up with them.
It's not a relationship. You just get to walk away. Alex says Ayuk would technically be Deebo's replacement. If we draft a receiver in the first, I'd argue you're replacing Ayuk, not Deebo. Well, then you've downgraded your team. Yeah,
because Ayuk, even if Ayuk takes another step, what we just witnessed out of Deebo, like it's an impossible step to take. Like that's one of the greatest 10-game stretches we've ever seen in NFL history. Is it not? I mean, it is. We've been watching football as adults now for almost 20 years. Like that's as good as it gets, guys. Like it doesn't get any better. Now maybe like Ayuk can become a Pro Bowler. Hell, maybe he has like an all-pro season. The chances that it's just not, because part of it is you didn't have to throw him the fucking ball. You just handed it to him. That was part of it, right? You just handed it to him. And what did it equal? 8 touchdowns. 8. The second half of the season, 8. Handing him the ball. Not on jet sweeps and stuff. Him lining at running back and you running outside zone or power or whatever. And it looked like, he's a top 5 running back. No one even argued that. Like, yeah, Deebo's probably top 5 running back. He just turned into a running back and was a top 5 running back. He's like, God, the Cowboys are like, we wish Zeke still looked like that. I mean, he's running by guys. Didn't you have the stat? Like half of his rushing touchdowns were like 20+ yards. And it makes
we
sense.
Just added it up. I mean, it was ridiculous.
It was crazy.
He's hitting big plays in the run game, right?
Which is a Kyle specialty, right?
It is.
When they were winning 2 years ago with Mostert was hitting them, Breda was hitting them.
Yeah, but we've got plenty of Kyle Shanahan data. He hasn't done it with he hasn't done it with one person doing both things before.
No, because that guy, who is that human being?
Burrow to Chase makes the case so much better to try and make Lance to Watson happen. Christian Watson. I disagree. I mean, can Christian Watson catch?
We do not compare North Dakota State wide receivers to Jamar Chase. A guy who sat out the season, went 5 overall, and had one of the better rookie seasons we've ever seen. After literally his teammate, who both were part of, I don't know, the greatest college football offense in the history of the sport. I appreciate North Dakota State. They are a big-time program for what they do. Jamar Chase, if he went to played at that level, I mean, come on. I think the better question is the group of other guys we're talking about. Like, could you risk it on Treylon Burks, who he ran 4.55? You know, now Deebo, I don't think.
I watched the tape, John. He's running away from Alabama, though.
No, he has dominated since he got there. I had someone DM me that 2 people actually DM me. One that said they watched him in high school, and they said by the time he was a senior, every person that had kind of watched his career went, this is probably the best high school athlete we've ever seen. And another guy that says he's an Arkansas Razorback season ticket holder with his dad or his grandpa and has been going to the games the last couple of years, said they've never had a guy quite like that. Like it was special to, and look who they're playing.